Ever wonder why soybean oil is in almost everything you eat? It's a question that might have crossed your mind as you flip through the ingredient list of your favorite snack or fast food. Subscribe as we expose the evils of big food and big pharma, and what you can do to stay healthy when they're trying to make you sick. You see, soybean oil is like that relative that shows up at every family event. It's everywhere. This golden liquid is a staple in the kitchen of every fast food joint and a common filler in processed foods. It's often paraded around as a healthy oil with its low saturated fat content and affordability, making it a darling of the food industry. But let's face it, just because something is everywhere doesn't mean it's good for you. From potato chips to salad dressings, it's hard to escape the reach of this ubiquitous ingredient. But why exactly is soybean oil so popular? And should we be concerned? So what's the big deal about soybean oil? Well, let's dive into the oily truth. Did you know that soybean oil might not be as healthy as you think? Let's dive into this a bit. Soybean oil, the golden child of the fast food industry, might have a dark side. It's like that charming friend who always seems to have an extra French fry to spare but ends up giving you heartburn. One of the major health concerns associated with soybean oil is its high omega-6 fatty acid content. Now don't get me wrong, our bodies do need omega-6 fatty acids. They're like the oil in our biological engines, keeping things running smoothly. But like that friend who can't stop talking about their favorite reality TV show, too much can be a bad thing. Our bodies thrive on balance, and that includes the balance between omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids. However, the typical Western diet, with its love for processed foods and soybean oil, has thrown this balance off kilter. We're talking about a ratio that's shifted from the ideal 1-to-1 to a whopping 20-to-1 in favor of omega-6. What's the big deal, you ask? Well, this imbalance can lead to inflammation. Imagine your body's immune system as a vigilant neighborhood watch. Inflammation is like that overzealous watch member who sees a threat in every unfamiliar face, causing unnecessary alarm and chaos. Studies suggest that this chronic inflammation might be a key player in a host of health issues, from heart disease to diabetes, and even certain types of cancer. It's like the neighborhood watch member's constant alarm has caused the whole neighborhood to fall into disrepair. Now let's talk about soybean oil and inflammation. Some research suggests that the high omega-6 content in soybean oil can increase inflammation in your body. It's like adding fuel to the fire of that overzealous neighborhood watch member. So is soybean oil really a silent killer? Stay tuned to find out. The truth might surprise you, or it might just make you rethink that extra serving of fries. But hey, knowledge is power, right? And we're just getting started. Ever wondered why inflammation is such a buzzword these days? Well, sit tight because we're about to dive into the world of inflammation and its not-so-friendly relationship with our ubiquitous villain, soybean oil. You see, inflammation isn't inherently bad. In fact, it's a crucial part of our body's defense mechanism. When you get a cut or catch a cold, inflammation is your body's way of saying, hey, we've got a situation here. It sends out a team of white blood cells to heal the wound, fight off the germs, and restore order. But what happens when this system goes haywire? What happens when the body is constantly in this state of high alert, sending out its troops, even when there's no actual threat? That, my friends, is what we call chronic inflammation, and it's a bit like setting off your home's fire alarm every time you make toast. Chronic inflammation is like an overzealous security guard, causing more harm than good. It can lead to a host of health issues, including heart disease, diabetes, and even certain cancers. And guess what's fanning the flames of this inflammatory inferno? Yep, you guessed it, our old friend soybean oil. Soybean oil is high in omega-6 fatty acids, which, in excess, can promote this harmful chronic inflammation. And because it's in, well, just about everything we eat, we're constantly fueling the fire. It's like pouring gasoline on a smoldering ember. In a nutshell, when we consume too much soybean oil, we're essentially setting our bodies up for a state of chronic inflammation, which can pave the way for a multitude of health issues down the line. So, the next time you feel inflamed, remember, it might just be the soybean oil talking. It's not just about the calories or the cholesterol, it's about the inflammation too. And that's a conversation we all need to be having. Think heart disease is only about clogged arteries? Think again. Picture this, a bottle of soybean oil, innocently sitting on your kitchen counter. It seems harmless, right? But when it comes to your heart's health, things may not be as they appear. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that soybean oil is some kind of villainous substance out to get us all. But it's important to understand its potential effects on our ticker. Let's dive a bit deeper, shall we? Scientific studies have been painting a rather worrying picture of soybean oil's relationship with heart disease. Now I know what you're thinking. Studies? Who has time for those? But bear with me here. It turns out that soybean oil could be doing a number on our hearts. Researchers have found that soybean oil can increase the levels of bad cholesterol in our bodies, and we all know what that means. Hello, heart disease. But it doesn't stop there. Soybean oil is also high in omega-6 fatty acids, and while these guys are essential for our bodies, too much of them can lead to inflammation. And inflammation, my friends, is like that annoying party crasher who just won't leave. It's persistent, it's irritating, and it can lead to serious health problems, including heart disease. But here's where things get really interesting. Some studies suggest that not only does soybean oil contribute to heart disease, but it could also interfere with the benefits of the heart-healthy foods we eat. Imagine that, you're eating your kale and quinoa thinking you're doing your heart a favor, and all the while that pesky soybean oil is lurking in the shadows, undermining all your good efforts. So, what's the takeaway here? Well, it's not to scare you away from ever using soybean oil again, but it's to remind us all to be mindful of what we're putting into our bodies. Because when it comes to our hearts, every little choice matters. So, soybean oil might not be the heart-healthy option it's made out to be. Ever heard of the big fat lie? No, it's not a tabloid headline about a celebrity scandal. It's a far-reaching deception that's been spoon-fed to us for decades. You see, we've been led to believe that all fats are bad. This is the big fat lie. The erroneous notion that's been responsible for the promotion of oils like soybean oil. So, let's break it down. For years, we've been told to avoid fats like it's the plague. Fat makes you fat. This mantra was sold to us by diet gurus, fitness enthusiasts, and even our very own food pyramid. The result? We started gobbling down low-fat products, which ironically were laden with sugars and other harmful ingredients. One of the biggest beneficiaries of this fat phobia was the soybean oil industry. It was painted as the healthier, low-fat alternative. But here's the catch. Soybean oil is not exactly the health hero it's made out to be. In fact, it's more like the villain of the story. It's a highly processed oil, often genetically modified, and rich in omega-6 fatty acids. And while we do need some omega-6 in our diets, the amount we're consuming is way out of proportion, leading to inflammation, heart disease, and other chronic conditions. All of this thanks to the big fat lie. This lie has had a profound impact on our health. It's contributed to the rise of obesity, diabetes, and heart disease, which are now rampant in society. We've been so focused on avoiding fats that we've overlooked the real culprits: processed foods, sugars, and yes, oils like soybean oil. The irony is that not all fats are bad. Healthy fats, like those found in avocados, nuts, and fish, are essential for our bodies. They help us absorb vitamins, support brain health, and even aid in weight management. So, the big fat lie might just be the biggest health hoax of the century. It's time we put it to rest and start embracing the truth about fats. After all, good health is about balance, not fear. So, what's the takeaway from all this soybean oil talk? Well, it's clear as a well-oiled skillet. Soybean oil, despite its widespread use and popularity, is far from being the healthiest option. It's like that seemingly cool friend who ends up being a bad influence. It might be everywhere, in your favorite fast food, your go-to snack, even your cherished home-cooked meals. But it's not doing you any favors health-wise. Let's do a quick recap, shall we? Soybean oil, thanks to its high omega-6 fatty acid content, is a pro at stirring up inflammation in your body. It's like a tiny, invisible army of troublemakers, causing chaos in your system. And inflammation, as we've learned, is like a ticking time bomb for chronic diseases. From heart disease to diabetes, even mental health issues, the list of potential health problems is as long as a grocery receipt. And let's not forget about the big food and big pharma connection. These guys are like the puppet masters behind the curtain, profiting from the widespread use of soybean oil and the subsequent health issues it causes. It's a classic case of the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, or maybe it knows, but chooses to ignore. But here's the good news. You're not doomed to a life of inflammation and health issues. There are healthier alternatives out there, like olive oil, coconut oil, or even avocado oil. These oils are like the superheroes of the cooking world, fighting inflammation and promoting good health. The key is to be aware and make conscious choices. Start by reading food labels, opting for fresh, whole foods whenever possible, and minimizing your intake of processed foods. Remember, the power is in your hands, or rather, in your kitchen. So let's turn the tables on big food and big pharma. Let's make them irrelevant by making healthier choices and reducing our dependence on soybean oil. Remember, knowledge is power, so empower yourself and make healthier choices, because your health is worth it. Subscribe and join us as we expose the many evils of the food and health industry and show you the actual good stuff.